advertising perspective with a lot of experience and a lot of forward momentum as well. Steve?
Thanks, Jim. You know, when we last met at CSUN, I said I'd never let you moderate me. So this is going to be an exception. And by the way, we had a spirited conversation on Braille and Hebrew, and it is left to right unless you're unorthodox. Then you read it right to left. Our business is focused on developing applications for mobile devices that access the web, and we develop apps in support of people with disabilities. So I'm talking from the College of Hard Knocks. Actually, it isn't hard knocks. It's a lot of fun. We have about 8 million users in 150 countries. We've developed in excess of 50 apps. And what I thought I'd do, and I'm going to try to do it in about 7 minutes, is basically cover the business case for making clouds accessible, and it's going to kind of play off of some things that Bill Coleman mentioned. Then I want to throw out a couple of ideas that I think may stimulate some thinking for discussion this afternoon after lunch. And then I want to tell you about a project, a cloud project we're very involved in that can determine, as the title of my slides say, where the accessibility of ports of entry to cloud services can make the difference between life and death. We're working on a project where that is the case. A little bit about my perspective on things. From my perspective, we no longer serve one market of billions of customers. We serve 1 billion markets of one customer each, and that one customer expects us to deliver their information based on their wants, needs, and preferences. Whether they have a disability or not is academic. The ports of entry I refer to in my case are mobile devices and fully accessible browsers and applications that have the ability to render information based upon an individual's preferences. We do business in 150 countries. The top 10 big emerging markets, a couple of them are having a few problems. Turkey, I think you can read about, is having a few protests, and Indonesia, they're getting slam dunked. Well, India is too, because the rupee is really down, I think 57.7 rupees per dollar. The top 10 big emerging markets, by coincidence, the top 5 spell cyber, C-I-B-I-R, China, India, Brazil, Indonesia, and Russia. The others, the other 5 are Mexico, the Korean Republic, Turkey, South Africa, and Philippines. Why do I mention these countries? We don't just do business in the United States. We're a global market. So if you want to do business and stay in business, you need to look around the world for customers. Out of those 10 big emerging markets, there are over 3 billion cellular subscriptions. 3 billion people have mobile devices. And we heard it said that mobile devices can be used to access cloud-based apps, assuming they're accessible. Let's look at some interesting demographics of the top 10 big emerging markets. And these are as of 2013, this month. If you look at just the top 10, there are 500 million people conservatively that never had the opportunity to learn to read. How are they going to use a mobile device to access services? Well, they could use the same technologies that accommodate people who are blind, text-to-speech and other ways to access information if they can't see it or they can't read it. 274 million people 65 years of age and over. And I think some of us in the room, especially Jim, can attest to the fact that you can't see, hear, think, or walk about as good as you did when you were 16. People with disabilities, I was very conservative. When I calculate numbers of people with disabilities in technology, I exclude everyone except people that have disabilities that preclude them from being able to access technology. That's vision and hearing and cognitive, which includes a lot of things. So I go with the figure of 10%. Very little, and it's a lot more than that. That's 357 million people worldwide. So that's the market out there. And if you're in business to get that market, you better consider accessibility. It doesn't need to be focused on disabilities. These are our customers. I'm going to share some data I normally don't. Out of the maybe 35 accessibility apps we have on the market, we have apps that deliver accessible services, and we have apps that make devices accessible. This is one of the apps that is designed to make Android devices accessible. We have 111,772 installations around the world. In the top 10 big emerging, we have 388,000 installations around the world. Guess what? United States represents 18% of those installations. The Big 10 emerging markets represents 29%. Not quite twice, but there is a demand for applications that render devices and applications out on the cloud accessible. There's no arguing this. So, Bill Coleman mentioned a kind of a change from a supply push market into a demand pull market. I used to define this, and Greg can testify that I was talking about this 20 years ago, I think. Supply push market, what compels industry to design accessible ICT? The word compels is an acronym. Each letter in the word compels can represent one of those market forces. These are supply push. I don't consider these good. They don't lead to a self-sustaining movement. But it's compassion, organizational beliefs, morals, personal beliefs, ethics, laws, social pressure. If you remove any of those, the movement stops. If you look at a demand pull market force, it's money. It's making a profit. It's growing your business. That is, as a CEO, that's what I need to do. So that's what I focus on. So fast forwarding, the cloud project we're working on is developing an ad hoc wireless mesh network that can be dropped in an area that just had a major natural disaster where there is no telecommunications, nothing. No telephones, no Wi-Fi, and there's no electricity. So what are you going to do? You know, the big companies like AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint will ultimately come in there and set up something. But first few hours, that isn't going to happen. So we're working on an application that lets cell phones operate on their own, no network. That's ad hoc Wi-Fi except in a wider space. The app we're working on will let anybody download an application to their phone and just have it sitting there. In the case of an emergency, when their phone doesn't work on the network, they open up this app. Their app will see all the other phones within Wi-Fi distance of their phone and create an address book. With what we call mesh extenders, those can be dropped in by airplane or brought in by car or truck, and they extend the mesh network out to an area where you do have internet connectivity. So this afternoon, if anybody's interested, I actually brought the project with me. I have 18 smart devices, and you can play with them and see how they interact with each other. But I'm here to tell you there is a business case for making cloud services and apps fully accessible. And the way I would move forward and push it is just using a business case. That's what makes sense to business people. And I've been in industry all my life, and it's very hard to sell anything other than something that adds to the bottom line. So, I'm done. Back to you, Jim. Thank you.